A roulette wheel connects all things in the dimension, and there is an opportunity to obtain anything you want. 12 talismans, Sharingan, Huluwa, Baqi, thunder-breathing method talent, skills, physique, bloodline, and all kinds of things are here. Gambling has caused poverty for 3 generations, and gambling has ruined a lifetime. But I just broke through the pirates, the hell started, and the boss rode his face. Can I not smoke or what? Ron, who was just reincarnated from the mud-headed car that caught up with his performance, angrily took a lottery, and from then on, money is a passerby. Several years later, Ron stood at the top of Marjoya, stroking his big back with one hand, and his disdainful gaze fell. The decay of the throne in this sea has stood for 800 years, and it should come to an end. From today on, I will stand on the sky, heavenly tremors hinder the stars. The meteorite Gemini, carrying lightning and high temperatures, smashed through the clouds and fell with a loud bang towards the holy land below. I really don't know how to write an introduction. Let's take a look at the beginning. Keywords of the novel. Pirates. I can draw dimensions of all things without pop-ups. Pirates. I can draw dimensions of all things. Download the full text. Pirates. I can draw dimensions of all things. Latest chapters for reading. Chapter 1. Opening of the Heavenly Collapse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Opening of the Heavenly Collapse. Dida. Dida. Scarlet blood dripped onto the ground, and a bloody smell accompanied by flowing blood like a stream filled the entire grocery store. I am. Ron sat on the ground with a bewildered expression as he looked at the blood-stained dagger in his hand. The palm of the other hand was placed on the heart, and a ferocious blood opening slowly closed under the fingers under unknown force. The scar disappeared in the blink of an eye, leaving only a sense of weakness echoing within the body's shell. He is thinking. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Just as the thought arose, Ron's brain suddenly began to ache. It's like a red crowbar prying open the skull and fiercely thrusting it into the brain to stir. Ah! Ron rolled on the ground, howling in pain. The blood-red shirt on his body stained the blood on the stream and became even more crimson. In that agonizing agony, his 3 philosophical questions were answered. His name is Kia. This is the town where the 16 naval branches are located. He committed suicide. The dagger pierced through his heart, and he died little by little in pain. The scene where the sky and earth have all darkened reminds people of the pain of the screen slowly turning black. Pain. It's really painful. Some people are alive but already dead, while others are dead but still alive. Ron is the latter. After the pain subsided like a tide, Ron gained the shattered memory of his predecessor, Koya. No, his original name was Kia, pseudonym. From Kakexia village, in order to escape the cruel exploitation and rule of a group of fishermen, he chose to flee and seek refuge as his cousin in the navy. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long. His cousin died in a battle with a pirate. Koya, who had lost his support, was found by a fisherman who threatened him to pay the protection fee he had owed in the past, otherwise he would be sunk into the sea to feed the fish. In theory, as a relative of the deceased navy, Kaya can seek help from the navy. Unfortunately, this is the 16 naval branches that prioritize money. What is waiting for help is bullying and extortion from other navies. The behavior of punching, kicking, watering the head, and being dragged to the corner to rob various species completely deprived Kuya of his hope for the human world. So he chose to commit suicide. Then a social animal who was voluntarily working overtime until he was in a daze encountered a car accident on his way home. Ron vaguely remembers having hallucinations at that time. What's right, mud truck? Suddenly, like Transformers, he transformed into a robot and shouted to him, "Hey buddy, can I help you with your performance? Don't worry, there will be cheats for you in the future. The world over there is very beautiful, maybe it's just a fan world, then a mountain-like fist hit me. When he woke up, Ron took over this damn life. Just as I opened my eyes, I was horrified to find a dagger in my chest. Who knows? Is this Fishman Navy along the same place? Ron stumbled up and went to the corner of the second-floor room. He opened the storage cabinet and searched for a yellowed bounty. He looked at the description above and pronounced the three most crucial words. Fragrant. Cool. S. Shanks. The face on the bounty is even more domineering and revealing than the one seen in the One Piece anime in my memory. Undoubtedly, this is Shanks, the face fruit expert. His mother, is this the world of the Pirate King? A commoner is like grass, and pirates are prevalent in the world. Justice and darkness are inseparable, a world ruled by the heavenly dragon people. What? Is Luffy's adventure very joyful and interesting? That's right. But what does that have to do with ordinary people like Grass Mustard? Your mother's kiss, how could she be reincarnated here? The promised world of Lifan. Ron tore up the bounty in a fit of rage, feeling furious and foolish again. I believe in things that are like hallucinations. After calming down, Ron began to figure out how to continue living. As a social animal, he is very familiar with life. In one sentence. Born, alive. Send off the one who loves you, raise the one you love, and then lie down in a small box to pass life. Calculating, Ron suddenly realized that his predecessor's suicide was not without reason. The savings of the predecessor, combined with the operating income of the grocery store, can withstand the protection fees of the fishermen and the extortion of the navy. However, the fishman previously requested that the predecessor pay off the previous protection fee arrears in a lump sum, and did not allow bargaining and demanded it immediately. Due to being in debt for several years, my predecessor couldn't afford it and borrowed a high-interest loan. Now the interest is rolling. Ron calculated the interest rate slightly and gave up the idea of making money to repay the debt. I can't afford it at all. The protection fee paid to the fisherman every month has to be exhausted. His first reaction at this moment is to call the police. Then I discovered from my memory that the one who lent high-interest loans was a relative of Navy Colonel Mouse. Hey, the judges on stage are all people from other people, why do you resist? Do you understand the integration of Taquan? What a sudden collapse. Ron was really desperate this time, he began to think and began to cross back and forth. And then at some moment, it suddenly stopped, and inspiration came. Do you have an idea? No. Ron sat on the ground and then lay down. What are you doing? Open up. What can we break this dead end with? The ultimate outcome is destined to be caught by the creditors, who will dismantle the parts according to the contract and sell them for money. Maybe it's better to take it alive than to commit suicide. Lying flat, Ron instinctively picked up the bloodstained dagger, and the bloodstained blade reflected a numb gaze. But it was also that moment when he suddenly froze. In the blink of an eye, he flipped over and presented the back of his hand holding the dagger in front of him. A colorful roulette wheel appeared on the back of the hand at an unknown time, with hazy colors flickering like breathing lights. Ron's mind rumbled and suddenly remembered what the mud cart had said in that illusion. No, that's not an illusion. Lifan world may not have it, but it has really been credited. The host's emotions have stabilized, and there is no possibility of excessive excitement and sudden death. They are in an investable state. The dimensional roulette wheel has opened. The colorful wheel suddenly turned into a phantom and occupied the center of the field of view, appearing in front of Ron like a virtual projection. Adapting to the world, collecting host data, loading primary roulette wheel. At that moment, a waterfall-like prompt jumped out of the retina. Finally, a light curtain formed in Ron's eyes. Name: Ron, age .18, race human, muscle strength. G. Weak ordinary person, parameter introduction. Muscle strength is a comprehensive rating of factors such as body strength, muscle strength, and explosive power. P.S. You should eat more and exercise, Mr. Bamboo. Ron. This system seems to have some strange stuff mixed in. Agility. H. Even among humans, you are as slow as a turtle. Parameter introduction. Agility is a comprehensive rating of factors such as speed, reflection, and even balance. P.S. It's the first time I've seen the speed of an H rating. Oh my god, so you're not a human, but a turtle species. Unfortunately, I don't have a quick syrup, physique. G/G, you are very normal, but losing too much blood is a bit weak. Parameter introduction. Physical fitness is a comprehensive evaluation of factors such as endurance and self-healing ability. P.S. The suicide of my predecessor did not cause you any trouble, which is really good news. Unfortunately, my Viagra has lost the possibility of promotion. Lucky. I. Plus, your luck is very bad now, the breath of death has already sounded in your ear. Parameter introduction. Luck is a comprehensive evaluation of a person's probability of good or bad luck. P.S. I originally wanted you to give the driver a good review, but now it seems that he should go hang the street lights. As my first customer, you seem to be dying. Charm. E. Your appearance is superior to that of a normal human. Parameter introduction. Charm is a comprehensive rating of the attractiveness of appearance, temperament, language and behavior to outsiders. P.S. What? Are you ordinary and unremarkable Louis Koo? Damn it. Cross it out for me. Feature. Currently unavailable. Parameter introduction. Feature is a classification and rating of special abilities such as immortality and regeneration. P.S. Wow, whiteboard human. At this moment, Ron realized that his cheat did indeed exist. But the system seems to be mixed with a love of roast, the P.S. Is this thing reliable? Ron is not sure. But he knew this was his last straw, and his rational mind was now in chaos. Hahoo. Ron took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. After re-examining the mindset, the light curtain turned to a colorful wheel like a page. The joyful music started from nowhere, accompanied by supporting knowledge, pouring into Ron's mind. Dimensional roulette, his cheat. Subject. Dimensional wheel, function. Lottery dimension, all things, attachment. Harmless artificial intelligence, P.S. That's right, it's me. Effect. Randomly obtain prizes from all dimensional creatures through a lottery. P.S. Prizes include but are not limited to abilities, talents, buff states, items, etc. Consumption. Bailey, P.S. Money is everything, my friend. Our main idea is to create happiness with money, no money makes you numb. Stage. Junior roulette, intermediate roulette, advanced roulette, VIP roulette, and so on. P.S. Promise that all shipping probabilities here are greater than laws and regulations. Special stage. Grand prize, the 100th draw in each stage will be replaced with a grand prize, which will additionally improve the quality of the first level draw and the probability of shipment. P.S. I hate this feature, the primary roulette wheel has been opened, and the number of chips held is less than 100. Please recharge in a timely manner. Ding, the apology subsidy from the driver has been received, grass. It turned out to be gambling. Damn it, don't you know I'm not compatible with gambling drugs? Ron has a dark face, just his luck of meeting drivers to drive performance, and his lucky rating on the attribute panel. What fun can smoking these things give? Is it okay to throw this little bit of family background into it and listen to water splashes? He instinctively focused his gaze on the last message. Okay, it's confirmed. That's not an illusion. His reincarnation was indeed overshadowed by others, and the culprit even gave him a subsidy. What subsidy? Dungeon coins. Why not burn it for your mother? Ron felt a fire burning in his heart, but suddenly two loud noises rang out downstairs. The sound of kicking the door and the sound of the door panel falling to the ground echoed one after another, and curses followed into the room. It's not too late, the organs of the dead are not valuable. Boss, there's a bloody smell. As a newcomer on the road, if you feel like it looks good, just bookmark it and give it a follow. Up reading. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. About the boss riding face at the beginning. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 2 about the boss riding face at the beginning. The conversation coming from downstairs made Ron's pupils tighten and he instinctively leaned down on the ground, listening attentively. Then, he realized the crisis from the other party's words. That's right here, isn't it? The gentleman who stepped into the store was holding a flint pistol in one hand. Fingers in black gloves rested on the trigger, with the muzzle intentionally or unintentionally facing Mon's back. Mon frolicked in complete ignorance and said, "Yes, Mr. Godfather. Koya's small shop is here, and I saw him repay all the debts of others and talk to me about not wanting to live. I'm sure I couldn't bear it and wanted to commit suicide. This is ruining your business, Godfather. I am a person who values honesty. If I say that the goods I sell to customers are the freshest, I will definitely not break my promise. If he successfully commits suicide, there is a risk of losing my trust." The gentleman, nicknamed Godfather, smiled and quietly lowered his gun. "But you're a good friend. You know that Kaya might commit suicide. Just use this news to offset your gambling debt." "You're really a good friend," he said. Mon smiled awkwardly, hesitant to deny it, and said vaguely, "Friend, it's normal to get into trouble. It's just a matter of stabbing a friend twice, right?" The Godfather sneered and looked at the four subordinates he had brought: find, live, see people, die, see corpses. "If you really can't find them," he said. He didn't continue speaking, his gaze shifted to Mond, who owed him gambling debts. "He's too clear about this guy's thoughts, it's just that he feels like he can't pay off his gambling debts. I want to sell my friends to get some money to pay off my debts, and even have ambitions to rely on serving him as his lackey. No matter what, dogs are also their own people. Do our own people still have to talk about debt? Unfortunately, at present, the Godfather does not lack running dogs, but lacks fresh materials. The business has just opened, and there is no saying that fresh materials must be someone who is not. It's not impossible to make do with this junk selling to friends." The thoughts of the villain were not known by Mond, and if he knew, he would probably kneel down and plead for mercy in tears, then regret why he had to pay attention. "Kia, don't blame me when it's dismantled. Anyway, you're always dead, why don't you help my friend? The money I owe you has also been cancelled, so you won't have to ask me for it again." Mond's malicious thoughts followed four thugs with knives in search of the target's whereabouts one after another. "Banana, you Barbara. The opening of the Timbang game is not enough, just boss face it." Ron, lying on the floor, could clearly hear the sound of stepping on the stairs, and without any accidents, he would be found in at most 2 to 3 minutes. Jump out of the window and escape. Where are we going to escape? Even if they escape, they will still be pursued, and naval soldiers will instead tie Ron up and send him over. Because the town is the territory of the 16 naval branches. It is also the small town controlled by the infamous Colonel Mouse in the original work. The man nicknamed Godfather is his creditor and never reveals himself by his real name. Who in the town doesn't know that the Godfather's real name is Mo, who is the nephew of Colonel Mouse? Even if lucky enough to escape to the edge of the island, there is a chance to jump into the sea. He is a half-duck who barely knows how to swim, and his chances of survival are also very slim. It's the sea outside, not the river. A dead end. Ron's thoughts were spinning, and there was no possibility of overturning the existing means inherited from his past. This honest person doesn't even have a flint gun. He would rather stab his heart and commit suicide than risk his life by pulling a few back cushions. If it were him, he would definitely use the last penny to buy a flint gun. Then find the guy who bullies you the most and sneak a shot while he's not prepared. I can't even survive anymore, what about killing enemies? On the Huangquan Road, you are not alone. Calm down, that's him not me. Ron suppressed his inner turmoil and calmly thought about ways to break the situation. Roulette draw. In terms of chips, there are still tens of thousands of Bailey in the drawer. But using the panel data of Lucky Eye to gamble on the dimensional roulette wheel of lottery probability, he feels that it is no different from using hanging sun steel plates. What is the concept of I? Ron does indeed have an alphabetical ranking in the rating parameters he receives. Max, S, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, there are a total of 9 ratings. That's right, there's no I. Even without H, G rating corresponds to the attribute parameters of ordinary people. The I on the panel, sorted alphabetically, should be the next letter of H. The 11th parameter. In addition, there are also plus A plus sign equals double the data plus, F plus equals F plus F, F plus plus equals F plus F plus F, and so on. The number is not enough to reach the corresponding rating, but it means it is higher than the next rating. That is to say, his luck's I can almost be equated with dying. Ron now has a saying. Mom sells a ponytail, I don't know how to use it as an oar. But can we also give it a try? It's better than standing idly by. Desperate Ron refused to accept his fate. Even if he pulled out a knife, he could try to pull someone to support him. So, he stood up with a rustling sound, ready to rush towards the drawer where the money was placed. A prompt suddenly popped up in front of me. Please collect the apology subsidy for driver 9527 as soon as possible. If you exceed the deadline, you will need to pay the suspension fee before you can withdraw it. Ron's mind roared. Yes. And the driver gave him an apology subsidy. It is unclear whether the dimensional roulette lottery will take time or not, and the recharge process is also uncertain. Apologies and subsidies are actually similar, both are actually bets. He believes more in the driver's apology subsidy than his own luck. At least that thing is not influenced by luck, and the apology subsidy may also have prepared emergency supplies to a certain extent. Even a handgun is a great firefighting tool for Ron today. At the same time, the sound of footsteps trampling on the hallway was accompanied by curses. Damn it, the smell of blood on the second floor has become much stronger. Is that scumbag who committed suicide so straightforward? The thug leader with a machete headed straight to the bedroom with the heaviest smell of blood. Mond, who was mixed with a few people, had an unpleasant expression on his face. Isn't that friend really dead? Can this debt still be considered for repayment? Hearing footsteps approaching, Ron immediately shouted in his heart. Take it out. Take it out immediately. At that moment, Ron prayed that the dimensional wheel could hear his heart, otherwise he would have to shout. Package is being opened for reward distribution. Avajra does not harm the body of the child. 10-year skill. Wait a moment. What kind of thing? While still in a daze, a familiar voice echoed in Ron's ear. Little brother, I'm sorry, but later I realized you weren't on the list. I accidentally made a mistake. My performance has not been guaranteed, but it has nothing to do with you. This Kong not bad work is the basis for me to become a driver and not be killed. 10 years of skill will be my compensation for you. The journey in the martial arts world is long, and we have a chance to see each other again. Can you give us a 5-star review? 5-star review. Praise your uncle. Ron cursed and felt an immense burning sensation in his body. As if hot magma was pouring into this body from the void, the skin turned red and cracked open. The ravines crisscrossed, but suddenly a glimmer of golden light flowed through. Diamond does not harm the body of the child. 10-year skill. Issued. The ding-dong sound of the dimensional wheel is so pleasant, and at the same time, there is a loud door kicked open. Mad, this bloody smell is really strong, it should be dead and perky. The thug leader cursed and withdrew his feet, but in the blink of an eye, he was squinted by the dazzling golden light. What kind of thing? Gold. Eat me Oscar little gold. Roaring and roaring startled 5 people, and Ron flew up. A heavy punch carrying the golden light hit the face of the leading thug. With a loud bang, the thug, along with his companions behind him, collided with the hallway wall and collapsed silently to the ground. Jean Ren. Mond, who was equally confused and retreating, suddenly shouted, "You are Koya." However, the 2 thugs didn't realize who Koya was and stared blankly as the Jean man turned around and raised his fists. What are you looking at? Have you seen a fist the size of a sandbag? Bang! With a flash of gold, another thug hung on the wall. The last reaction came, waving the machete with a ferocious expression on his face, and then, with a clang, the machete rolled its edge. That's it. Ron hit the thug's nose with a straight punch, and with the sound of his face bone shattering, he fell asleep. So strong. This kind of strength can already be compared to lightweight professional fighters, right? Ron's heart was filled with joy, and then his mood became uncomfortable. Because he thought about what it was for. I bought it with my life. Can it not be strong? Kia, you. It's really great that you're okay, it's me, Mond. Mond leaned against the wall with a cold sweat on his face, and his legs softened. Mond. Ron looked at the other person with a puzzled expression, and his head suddenly stabbed. Then he found the corresponding person from the broken memory. Mond, my friend, although he is a gambler, he is the only friend who is willing to come knocking on his door and have a heart-to-heart relationship after the fall of Koya. But in Koya's memory, this guy was somewhat lacking in character. Because I owe you money and don't pay it back. Unfortunately, he is one of the creditors. Ron squinted his eyes and stared at Mond, whose forehead was sweating cold. It's you. What are you doing here? Mr. Godfather said he wanted to come and see you, but I didn't trust him, so I followed him. Mond showed a stiff smile, but envy and jealousy couldn't be concealed in his eyes. My former friend suddenly turned into a golden man, and he knew that Kia must have had bad luck eating the devil's fruit. I never expected that the legendary devil fruit really existed and was eaten by weak trash like Koya. Mond really wished he could take his place. If he had eaten the devil's fruit, he wouldn't have any worries. What gambling debts, what godfathers, they all dry up and crumble. Just be a native of our country, okay? But it's okay, Mond, who has a friend's status, is confident that Koya will obediently listen to him. He knows this person too well. He is weak, cowardly, lacking in initiative, and a bad person who reflects on himself when hurt. As a friend, I will definitely be able to step on Kia and reach the pinnacle of life. You really scared me, Kia. Mond's smile became sincere as he leaned against the wall and pointed to the thug on the ground, but you've also caused big trouble. They were brought by Mr. Godfather, and now he's downstairs. As he spoke, Mond also observed Koya's expression, hoping to see the expression of panic and fear from above. However, there was no doubt in his heart, and his face remained unchanged as he continued to coax, but it's okay. As your friend, I will help you. As long as you listen to me, he said, end of this chapter. Chapter 3. When an honest man takes off his mask and picks up his weapon, you beg for mercy repeatedly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. When an honest person takes off their mask and picks up their weapon, you don't even have the right to beg for mercy. Stop. Ron interrupted the other person's conversation and looked coldly at Mond, whose face looked ugly. Since you're my friend, let's do me a favor first. What are you busy with? It seems like you're different from before today. The unexpected situation made Mond feel a bit confused and instinctively said, "You wouldn't think I'm with them, would you? Dude, I owe Mr. Godfather a debt, and I'm the same as you." "No, that's not it." Ron coldly pointed to the staircase and said, "I want you to go down first." "What?" Mond's smiling face froze. "As my good friend, you wouldn't even refuse to go downstairs, would you?" Ron accentuated the three words, "good friend." As a social animal who has been living in society for 5 or 6 years, he has lost the innocence he had when he first left campus, and what he possesses more is calmness. What he just heard lying on the floor couldn't have been hallucinations. He's not really Kaya himself, so there's no need to lie to himself. Amidst those voices, there is a very flattering person who always thinks of the Godfather. Coincidentally, that person's voice is the same as Mond's. "Mr. Godfather." "Well, what I mean is that it's better for us to go down together and meet him, right? Koya, you actually know who he is, right?" Mond realized something was wrong and tried to persuade Kia to come downstairs with him by changing his mouth. "I said, go down." Ron picked up the large machete on the ground, his fierce gaze as cold as a sword. "Okay, don't get excited, I'll just go down." Mond's breathing became rapid, and the friend in front of him made him feel somewhat unfamiliar. "Damn it, what's wrong with it? I couldn't have been hit hard, so I suddenly regretted and changed my personality." Da. As the footsteps moved, Mond retreated to the corner, his face uncertain. "Hurry up." Ron raised his machete upon seeing this, with an irritable expression on his face. "Okay, I'll go down now, Mr. Godfather." "I'm coming down." Mond gritted his teeth and shouted, comforting himself as he went down. "It's okay, it's just going down. After this incident, Mr. Godfather should treat him like his own dog." Bang! In a flash of fire, Mond stumbled and fell down the stairs. Ron, who was approaching, suddenly stopped and instinctively held his breath. Sure enough, he knew that the movements in the second-floor corridor could not be concealed from the people downstairs. He could hear the voices downstairs, and conversely, he could hear the voices upstairs as well. But is it because he is afraid of using Mond as a cover to charge down with such decisive firing? The Godfather doesn't know what happened, but he knows his subordinates have been dealt with. Then there's at least one person and one gun left, damn it. I was too nervous just now and forgot to ask Mond how many people there were. Ron clenched his fist, his thoughts spinning. King Kong is not a bad boy. His body can withstand a machete, but he may not be able to withstand the bullets of a flint gun. In terms of penetrating power, gunpowder weapons can shake off cold weapons for 8 streets. But this is just his guess, because it is unclear to what extent Kong Kong can achieve without damaging the boy's body. As the saying goes, knowing oneself and knowing the enemy leads to victory in all battles. Ron quickly began the process of understanding oneself. Dimensional roulette, let me take a look at the data of Kong Kong's not bad boy body. The thought turned and the light curtain popped up instantly. Diamond does not damage the boy's body. Third layer, origin. Assassin Wu Liuqi, effect. After exercising power, a golden light cover is generated, greatly increasing defense against swords. Consumption. Gas, characteristics. Qi, muscle strength +3, constitution +2, PS1. Swords and swords. Guns and sticks. No weapon is as useful as your body. You are the armor soldier who roamed the battlefield in ancient times, an invincible high-level expert. What? Are you going to challenge AK-47? Hey, come on, book the best crematorium for him and add it to my account, PS2. It has a small drawback, as it is given as a gift, there is no room for improvement. Ron instinctively glanced at his attribute panel and it did indeed change. Name. Ron, age .18, race human, muscle strength. G++/G. P.S. Wow, you look like you can beat a young bear. Agility. H. Even among humans, you are as slow as a turtle. P.S. If I have an urgent syrup, can you run faster? Constitution. G+/G. With the consumption of Qi, weakness temporarily leaves your body. With the blessing of Qi, your resistance has been significantly improved. Luck. I. Plus, death is gazing at you, but external factors of luck interfere with your destined fate of death, P.S. That's right, it's a dimensional wheel. Charm. E. Ordinary and unusual ancient Tianla, characteristic. Qi, there is improvement, but not much. Very good, it looks like there's no point in charging hard. Ron's gaze lingered for a few seconds on the improvement of PS, calmly analyzing useful information for himself. The power of a flint gun cannot be compared to automatic weapons like the AK-47. But both sides still fall within the scope of firearms. Being invincible does not mean being able to withstand bullets. If the number of enemies is unknown and they hold firearms, then there is only one choice left. Ron didn't hesitate to turn his head and walked, stomping heavily into the bedroom. Opened the money drawer without any hesitation. He stuffed the remaining 60,000 Bailey into his arms and then crashed into the window. With a loud bang, the little golden man smashed the window and flipped into the air, landing perfectly. This is the use of the technique that comes with the 10-year skill of the Diamond Immortal Boy. Just now, Ron was able to defeat the enemy with a few punches because of this. After rolling and landing, Ron ran without looking back. 36 strategies. Walking is the best strategy. Behind him, a dark muzzle popped out and fired a shot, with the bullet hitting the empty space in the midst of the burst of flames. The Godfather, who had not waited for the enemy to rush in, held a flint pistol and cursed loudly, "Bastard, coward. You have the guts to come back and fight me alone." However, the dark silhouette has disappeared at the end corner. "What are you running for?" Suowu chased after him in an uncontrollable anger. Coming out to pursue a debt but losing 4 thugs on a weak person, if someone still manages to escape. Does he still want to blackmail the boss's pussy? Without hesitation, Suowu chased after him and followed his footprints to the corner, ready to continue chasing. However, a golden light suddenly shone in the dimly lit alley, and the extended golden hand appeared in front of Suowu with its ferocious face. "So. You're the only one." Ron held on to the barrel of the gun that had just been lifted by Suowu with a grim expression and stood aside. The other hand clenched its 5 fingers into a fist and slammed heavily onto the bridge of the flying warrior's nose. The intense pain and numbness made Suowu cry uncontrollably, struggling to retreat and cursing angrily, "Kia, you're doomed. I'm going to skin you alive." However, at this moment, Ron, who was deceiving himself, tightly grasped the barrel of the gun and deflected it to the side, while his golden hand gripped the opponent's neck. Close combat, killing intent overflows. Suowu's eyes tightened and he could no longer maintain the aura of the Black Master. As he pulled out his dagger, he hurriedly squeezed out his voice and said, "You dare to kill me? I am Colonel Mouse's nephew. A relative of the Navy. If you want to beg now, kneel down. Thorn it." The golden light suddenly shone brightly, and the 5 fingers turned into sharp blades, piercing into the neck of the flying warrior. As he pinched his trachea, he exerted a fierce force. With just a tearing sound, Ron's bloody trachea appeared in his hand. "In front of me, blood surges like a pillar. Hee." Suowu widened his eyes and released his grip on the dagger, then covered the cut in his neck. Red and pink bubbles kept popping up between his fingers. He struggled to look at Koya, but only saw a pair of bloodshot eyes filled with anger. It shouldn't be. Why did the originally cowardly sheep dare to brazenly devour the hunting dog? Uncle said that the weak should be exploited by the strong, and dedicating everything is their honor. But why does Kia dare to kill him? At that moment, the clothes on his chest were stained red with blood, and the blackened Suawu in front of him seemed to see one bloody face after another. How familiar, it seems that the weak ones who were once exploited and ravaged by him have come to find him. A desperate girl hanging naked from a mother holding a dead baby whose placenta had been dug out. A man tied to a cold metal platform cutting open his body to retrieve parts. Who else is there? Many people's faces flashed by, and the last one that appeared was his grandfather who warned him not to go too far in his work. What did you say? Oh yes. When an honest person takes off their mask and picks up their weapon, you don't even have the right to beg for mercy. But my uncle told him behind his back not to care and sneered at it. The reason why the weak are weak is because they lack the courage to resist. Uncle, you lied to me. Suawu's eyes completely darkened, embracing eternal sleep in the cold darkness. A cold voice from Ron echoed in his ear. What's there to be afraid of? Without the shelter of that bastard Colonel Mouse, what are you? Without an answer, Suawu had already lost his voice. The act of pulling out his trachea just now also tore open his artery, causing a large amount of blood loss in a short period of time and leading to immediate death. Ron pinched his bloody trachea and looked coldly at the dead Suawu. He didn't react too aggressively, just his legs were trembling uncontrollably. Although there is inexplicable emotions surging in my heart, it is never regret killing someone. This kind of scum lives to waste air, dies to waste land, and should not come into this world. Has the gas been depleted? Ron inserted the flint pistol he was holding in his hand into his waist and spread out his fingers to carefully observe. The original golden light has disappeared, and no matter how hard it is to activate the Diamond Immortal Child technique, it cannot be used. Considering the consumption column in the panel, it should be that he has run out of gas. After all, just now he used all his remaining energy on his fingers in order to successfully kill the flying sword. Is this all for 10 years of hard work? Driver, you can't do it either. You're short and powerless. Ron angrily gestured his middle finger upwards, hoping that the driver could see his friendly gesture. What? Are you still being good after getting a discount? His mother, the subsidy you get for your life is just so much. Don't you allow him to force you. How capable of cross-border law enforcement. The chaotic thoughts quickly receded like a tide, and Ron, who had calmed down, dragged the body of Suawu away, but the direction was his own grocery store. Guns fired several times during the night in the small town, and Navy soldiers might come out to take a look. If it were elsewhere, the alarm might have already sounded by now. Fortunately, amidst misfortune, this is the territory of the 16 naval branches base, and the supremacy of money has made the Navy here profit without getting up early. So the slow response is the characteristic here. Anyway, Ron can't just leave the body here. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Starting Lottery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Starting Lottery. Ron dragged the body to the first floor of the grocery store and returned to his original location to cover up the blood with some dirt and grass. When I entered the door again, a figure slowly climbed up the stairs, but it was Mond with a pale face. Kaya, help me, please. Mond coughed blood and stood up against the wall, pointing his crimson fingers at the bullet hole in his abdomen. I was shot trying to find your way. You can't just give up on me like this. He said he knew his life was in the hands of Koya, and if the other party didn't treat him, he would be dead. You're still alive, you're really lucky. Ron glanced at him and shook his head. Hey buddy, are we really friends? If so, why are you here with these guys? Didn't I say that? You didn't trust me, so you followed me. Mond gritted his teeth on the initial reason and didn't let go. Koya has changed, it's normal. If he eats the devil's fruit, he will become wild, not to mention the black boss. Just be a native of our country, okay? But he knew that even if Koya's temperament changed, it wouldn't change too much. Even if a good person has endured the hardships of the world, they will still hesitate to reach out for help. They will not easily change their goodwill. That's why it's easy to bully. But unfortunately, he didn't realize that the good person and good friend in front of him had been replaced. The shell is still the same, but the inner core is different. It's boring, I really don't have the energy to argue with you anymore. Ron shook his head and pulled out the flint pistol, holding it in his palm. He walked towards Mond and said, "Remember, you still owe me tens of thousands of Baileys. If it weren't for you not being able to pay it back, I would be able to sell a house and land. Where would I need to borrow high-interest loans?" Yes, the tragedy experienced by our predecessor was largely due to more than one person's failure to repay their debts. Perhaps their predecessors felt that they had a last resort, but Ron didn't think so. But at that time, I really couldn't repay it. And I wasn't the only one who owed you money. Kia, you have to trust me, we're a team. Mond leaned against the wall and squeezed out a smile, with his hand behind him. What about now? Ron's footsteps approached, his gaze icy like a knife. I'm already like this, how could I still have the ability? You save me first, I will definitely repay later. Mond turned his back and tightly grasped the cold handle, staring intently at his approaching friend. I don't know why, he can't feel the pain anymore. Ron's footsteps suddenly stopped and he smiled. Actually, there is another way. To get rid of debt when you die. The black barrel of the gun instantly lifted, and the flames burst out. Bang! Mond, who had an extra eye on his forehead, fell to the ground, and a dagger fell from his released palm and finger to the ground. Ron remained silent, not because he was almost killed by Mond's counterattack. But rather, why did my gun hit the center of my eyebrows when it was clearly aimed at my chest? Ron, who was shocked to realize his potential as a master of human body contouring, fell into contemplation. It seemed that he was holding the gun in an incorrect position and tilting the muzzle upwards. Forget it, let's clean the battlefield first. Ron thought for a moment, but still didn't find a reason for himself. He picked up Mond's dagger and repaired it one by one from upstairs to downstairs. By the way, he also scraped over 100,000 Bailey from the thug and the samurai. Less, it looks like it's around 100,000 yuan, isn't it all carried with you? Ron stuffed the last pile of clean Bailey into his arms, his gaze fixed on the blood-red Bailey banknotes that were separated, hesitating for a moment. At this moment, hurried footsteps sounded outside the house. Outsiders. At this time, Ron suddenly looked back and clenched his flint pistol with an ugly expression. He was now at the end of his rope. The gas is clean, and the flint pistol has not been filled yet. In fact, he doesn't know how to fill it at all. Doo-doo. The knocking on the door had already begun, accompanied by the sound of dissatisfaction. What the hell are you doing? How many gunshots have you fired in the middle of the night? Even if I'm a night patroller and can't see it, how many civilians in town can hear gunshots? Can we go to the warehouse at your dock to play games? In your stronghold, do whatever you like to do well, right? The man carrying a flint gun was complaining towards the door, but his words were restrained and there were no dirty words. Navy soldiers. Ron also inferred the identity of the other party from those words, a naval soldier patrolling the night. It should be someone bought by Suawu using the relationship with Colonel Mouse, specifically helping them cover up the evil events of the night. Sorry for the trouble. Although the 16 base prioritizes money, the naval soldiers with combat effectiveness have received combat training no matter how they may deteriorate. After all, this is a world dominated by pirates, and greedy money without military protection is just a floating cloud. So there is a high risk of using manual sterilization. Then take a gamble. At that moment, Ron suddenly opened the door a little gap and crawled out sideways. Standing expressionless in front of the naval soldier, a thick layer of Bailey slapped his shocked face. Mr. Godfather is still playing, changing places will make the bloody smell dissipate a lot. Ron stared coldly at the somewhat bewildered naval soldier, and a stack of Bailey in his hand patted the young and greedy face. So the gentleman's meaning is very simple, take the money, and then get out. For me. The Navy soldier swallowed his saliva, his gaze was fixed on the pile of Bailey slapped on his face, very clean. So if you look closely, you can see clearly that there are at least tens of thousands of Bailey. Offensive. How could it be? Who wouldn't like money? If he had money, he wouldn't have done such a hard job as night patrols. If it weren't for his lack of resources, he wouldn't have worked for that flamboyant flying warrior. But Mr. Godfather is really generous, he can give over 100,000 Bailey in one go. If we come a few more times in the future, get lost. Ron adhered to the principle of saying too much and losing too much, and directly stuffed a thick stack of Bailey into the arms of naval soldiers. Then he lifted his foot and kicked it over. Okay, I'll leave immediately and won't disturb Mr. Godfather's entertainment. The Navy soldier happily closed his clothes and quickly left. Ron watched the other person leave expressionlessly and then return to the grocery store. He is not sure if the naval soldier has seen through and if there will be any other accidents, so he needs to make a quick decision. Dimensional roulette, I need to recharge. Ron walked straight to the bloody pile of Bailey banknotes and lifted his right hand, which was engraved with a colorful wheel, to align with the back of his hand. Command received, start recharging. The colorful wheel on the back of the hand blooms with colorful radiance. At that moment, the Bailey banknotes, covered in blood, rushed towards the colorful light as if they had taken on life. What form will it take? Ron stared closely at this scene, and in the blink of an eye, all the approximately 70,000 to 80,000 Bailey bills disappeared. But Ron, with his sharp eyes, saw the process. When Bailey recharged, it seemed to be done simultaneously regardless of the quantity. During this period, there was a slight brief pause, so he saw the banknotes suddenly shattered. At the same time as the debris disappeared, something that existed but was invisible entered. Is the concept of money. The origin of the dimensional roulette wheel is probably more terrifying than I imagined. Ron inevitably had concerns, but he thought of himself being so weak and gave up thinking about this issue. His current strength has no practical value at all. Without the dimensional wheel, he can still operate with a different person. But if Ron had no dimensional roulette, he probably wouldn't have had a chance to turn things around in his life. So he chose to seize the opportunity while also willing to take on possible risks. Light screen pop. Up message. Recharge completed, current chip balance. 810000 Pele. P.S. You can be considered wealthy, sir. Come and play now. You can't afford to lose out on 100 Bailey, but you can still buy a chance to hit the jackpot. Call out the dimensional roulette, I want to draw a lottery. Ron ignored P.S.'s words and calmly observed the operation of the dimensional wheel. It is only now that he has put in the effort to look at the complete composition page of the dimensional roulette wheel. Property panel lottery wheel attachment port, a very concise interface with only 3 options. The first one doesn't need to be introduced at all, Ron has already seen it before. The second type is the most important function of the dimensional roulette, which is the lottery that changes fate. The third type seems to be a reserved function socket. Is there any possibility of adding new features to this thing? Ron pondered and instinctively glanced at the attribute panel. Glancing at him, he suddenly froze because the property panel had changed again. Name. Ron, age .18, race human, muscle strength. G++/G. P.S. Wow, you look like you can beat a young bear. Agility. H. Even among humans, you are as slow as a turtle. Constitution. G+/G. Lucky. I+, you have escaped the destined doom, and the footsteps of the Grim Reaper have temporarily left, but you are still in a dangerous environment where you can die suddenly at any time. However, due to the interference of the traverse factor, your fate seems to have a turning point. Charm. E. Ordinary and unusual ancient Tianla, characteristic. Chi, it has changed, and the luck rating has increased. Ron pondered, isn't luck absolute? And what is the interference of the interlocutor factor? He keenly noticed something was wrong because the parentheses after his luck were a question mark and a plus sign. Perhaps this is what is called a turning point. Is it like the inexplicable power that automatically recovers the chest injury when he is resurrected from the body of Koya? That feeling is like a mother, but it seems like an illusion. We need to be careful, but now is not the time. Ron thought for a moment, but didn't continue to dwell on it. Instead, he switched to the lottery wheel. There are hundreds of squares in the wheel, but all of them are covered in colors. With just one glance, Ron remembered that this thing was gambling in nature. To be honest, he was really at odds with gambling on drugs. But, that's something from the previous life, it's definitely not worth it if it's all changed in a different world. Ron comforted himself so much, and without hesitation, he opened the first lottery. Of course, only once. The colorful wheel instantly turned, and in the blink of an eye, a beam of light was thrown out. Extracted. Elderly underwear X1, wait a moment, what's going on? Ron was stunned and a wrinkled panties emitting a strange odor appeared in his hand. Dirty elderly underwear, origin. Wuyo nursing home, effect. There is a certain probability of contracting diseases when worn for a long time. P.S. Ba. Scumbag. Scum. Stealing elderly underwear. Damn it. Ron instinctively threw his underwear out like an electric shock, just covering Mon's face. Then helplessly, he placed his hand on the legs of his pants and wiped them again and again. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Pirates of the Caribbean. Wish Compass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Pirates of the Caribbean. Wish Compass. Mad, is this the lottery? Ron muttered inwardly, then thought of the number of 100 bellies. 100 bellies would be drawn, and what kind of bicycle would be needed for such a cheap price? However, drawing time and time again is a waste of time, and he wants to see what the big prize that PS doesn't like is. Lottery 99 times. Ron quickly gave the command and the colored wheel began to rotate. This time, the light was like a waterfall, turning into one object after another around him. Extracted. Rice and vegetable roll, extracted. Bottled water, extracted. Dirty crossbow, extracted. Rusty crossbow arrow, grand prize trigger, drawn. Broken compass unable to guide, a broken compass. It's still unguided. Is it the same for big prizes? Ron's gaze swept over a pile of clutter and finally found the ordinary compass in the corner. The light curtain instantly bounced up and appeared before my eyes. Broken compass / wish compass without guidance, origin. Pirates of the Caribbean, effect. It can point in the direction of the wearer's wishes, but cannot guide or search for life forms. Consumption. January 1st time per day, PS1. You are both lucky and unlucky. If you win a higher level roulette, you will receive an unlimited number of wish indicator compasses. No thing, no place, no treasure can escape your wish, PS2. It's best to cherish the big prize will only appear once in each stage. This is obviously a good thing. He has also watched the Pirates of the Caribbean movie series. The wish indicating compass cannot guide, but can point to the direction that the holder desires in their heart. Although Ron's draw was clearly a weakened version, considering that this draw cost $10,000, it's simply worth it. Can't it be worth it anymore? However, the PS mentions that the grand prize only occurs once in each stage. Still disappointing Ron, the originally faint card bug is Ba. Normal profit. Making methods are considered unusable. The possibility of repeatedly brushing low-consumption beginner roulettes to win big prizes is directly stifled. However, even if it's the same thing, the more advanced the roulette wheel lottery, the better the result will be. This needs to be noted. Ron pondered over the information brought by PS, and the second tip needs attention. As for the first one, although Ron is regretful, he doesn't feel much loss. He has never been greedy. Because the most suitable is the best, and for him now, this compass is the best. Without any accidents, we will soon need this thing. Ron solemnly put away the compass guide and then saw new prompts emerging. The lottery has reached 100 full draws, and the dimensional roulette has started the intermediate roulette. The single chip in this stage of roulette is 1,000 bellies. Enhance. Ron was taken aback and opened the roulette wheel interface to check, only to find that the lottery interface had changed into two. One beginner, one intermediate. The lottery amount for the primary roulette has not changed, while the chip amount for the intermediate roulette has increased to 1,000. The possibility of repeatedly brushing the jackpot is gone, but the updated new stage roulette brings the new jackpot to Ron. However, upgrading one level resulted in a tenfold increase in consumption, which made Ron feel a bit uncomfortable. Just now, he doesn't have the time to think about the future. He selected a large number of items from the ground that he thought might be useful and put them in a hastily packed backpack. Ron put on his backpack and looked regretfully at the many items on the ground. The dimensional wheel seems to have no storage space, which forces Ron to give up many potentially useful things. Whether to eat spicy food or die from poverty in the future depends on this beginning. Ron crossed the threshold and closed the door with his back hand, standing in the quiet night sky, taking a deep breath of air conditioning, and then moving steadily towards the port. Escape. That is inevitable, but he still has very important things to do before leaving. No matter how absurd the fact of crossing is, Ron has already arrived in a world called One Piece. It's already impossible to go back. His parents passed away early, and the last thing he did was to leave Ron a house with an unfinished loan. In order to repay the debt and maintain his last thoughts, he dropped out of high school to work hard and earn money everywhere. He has encountered both warmth and coldness in the world. Although he had a family in name, Ron had no attachment to that world due to the sacrificial social life. The previous dust is like sand, just drift away with the wind. Although the situation in this life was also very difficult, he was forced to step on someone else's body and walk a path of survival at the beginning. But at least he still has a dimensional wheel and the opportunity to change the future. Unlike my past self, even if I know I don't have a good future, I can only stand in a dark corner and watch others happy and contented. Because there is no reliable path to rise, I am trapped in a cage of anxiety. No light, no liberation. It is precisely because of experiencing powerlessness and surrendering to reality that one sharpens their own edges. At this moment, Ron is so eager to seize the future. Only by grasping the power to change destiny can he have the opportunity to see this world that should exist in fantasy. Meet Name, Weiwei, Hankook and Baixing, who used to be the wives of the anime paper people. Well, that's all he remembered about people the first time. But bigger, Ron also wants to see the empty island above 10,000 meters and see the Fishman Island below 10,000 meters. To understand the sins and dreams on the waves of the sea, to witness the changes of the pirate era, or to create the world you want with your own hands. And all of this requires Ron to successfully escape the town and have a good start. Fortunately, Ron possesses a dimensional wheel to gain power and change his own destiny. What is needed? Massive chips. Massive Bailey. Coincidentally, he knew that Xuanwu would inevitably accumulate a large amount of wealth in a few years, and most of it would definitely be handed over to his uncle, Colonel Mouse. A small portion will definitely fall into Mr. Godfather's pocket, not just a small amount like hundreds of thousands of Bailey. As for where it is, the newly arrived naval soldiers have actually made it clear. The warehouse next to the port. Suawu is a greedy black boss who also knows how to utilize his strengths. The warehouse, which serves as a stronghold, clearly belongs to the Navy, and whoever comes up with any ulterior motives will consider the reputation of the Navy. And there aren't many people guarding here. In fact, there are only about 10 subordinates under the command of Suowu. Most of them are collateral relatives of naval officers. Mr. Godfather is well aware that the reason why he is feared is not because of force, but because of his uncle behind him. At this moment, a bold and fearless culprit has set his sights on this place. Shoo! A cold light flashed through the night sky and flew out between two drowsy gatekeepers. The two of them were startled and quickly regained consciousness with a snort. Who? The gatekeeper shouted in a mix of shock and anger, and then turned around to hear hurried footsteps. Accompanied by the footsteps, it is truly a golden figure. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Life is like a salted fish, how can one turn around without success? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Life is like a salted fish, how can one turn around without success? Oscar Little Golden Man. Step forward punch. Ron, who quietly reached a sufficient distance, punched the janitor in the face, and his front teeth flew out with reason. The janitor fell asleep without saying a word. A companion beside him angrily cursed and swung his machetes, but Ron caught him and kicked him in the crotch of the enemy's pants. The latter's face was limping with pain, his trembling pupils reflecting the punch he had swung. Bang! The last gatekeeper fell to the ground cleanly, and his companions in the nearby area quietly opened a gap in their eyes. After discovering that his companion's face was covered in blood, he became even quieter. What? Get up and rebel. How many Bailey are there in a month? What kind of luck are you playing with? Gone. Shooting crooked again. But fortunately, everything has been resolved. Ron glanced at the two people lying on the ground, their golden light fading away. Vajra does not harm the young boy's body, which seems to be passively running. After half an hour of chi consumption, it regains nearly half of its amount. This provides a guarantee for the originally adventurous action. However, the speed of chi consumption is very fast, and he needs to fight quickly and make a quick decision. He refilled the dirty old crossbow in his hand. This is the loot obtained from the dimensional roulette lottery, barely able to be used as a ranged weapon. He figured out the loading of the crossbow himself and it was quite easy to master. Of course, what should have fallen through is still falling through. After Ron filled it up, he didn't hesitate to kick the door and enter. Hold your head in both hands. FBI. Dong. 6 thugs sitting around playing cards were startled. Where are you from? How dare you attack the Godfather's territory? The burly man led by him angrily stood up, grabbed the machete beside him, and strode towards the shooting star. Is this kid lost? Gus, kill him quickly. The other 5 thugs looked lively and almost shouted to Gus with popcorn. Ron raised his hand and shot. The arrow startled the few enemies, but unexpectedly it fell through. He didn't panic, but took a glance to understand the situation. 6 of them, none of them have firearms. It shouldn't be difficult to obtain the Navy's flint guns with the abilities of the flying swordsman, but none of these subordinates have them. Only he has a flint pistol, so is he maintaining his violent status. It's really luck. Ron clenched his fist in an instant, and the golden light covered his entire body. What kind of thing? Gus stood dumbfounded and instinctively rubbed his eyes. Grass, so shining. Is that gold or human? However, the opponent had already rushed forward, and Jean Can's fist hit towards the door. After all, he was an experienced thug, and Gus immediately reacted and swung his knife to cut him down. Whatever he is, let's kill him first before we talk. I can't say it's just a madman who smears gold paint on his body and dares to rush over barehanded. Then send him to meet the underworld king with a single blow. Dang! The golden spear trembled, and the blade of the machete rolled up instantly. Gus's pupils tightened, and the machete only curled its blade when it struck someone. Grass, what a monster! You! Before he could finish speaking, Ron punched the other 5 thugs to shut up and lie down, charging towards them without slowing down. Gus fell down. What's the situation? I clearly saw Gus cutting him down. Don't worry about that for now, he's rushing over. 5 thugs picked up their weapons and boldly shouted, he only has 1 person, 5 on 1, our advantage. Yes, let's go together. The thugs rushed forward with machetes and immediately got into a fight with the newcomers. Do you think you're a player? Look at the punches. Ron is pushing forward instead of retreating, and he has to take risks due to time constraints. The corpses in the grocery store are now bombs that exploded at an unknown time. Once he hasn't left this island before the explosion, he never has to leave. Just dig a hole and lie down there waiting to die. Not to mention anything else, at least the cemetery was chosen by oneself, wasn't it? These thugs, although not very strong, have a deep understanding of the just siege tactics and are attacking Ron from all sides. Although the other party is shining with golden light, they are not 3-headed and 6-armed. If you can't die with just 1 strike, come back with another one. Dang! Ron, who was stabbed in the back, had a tense expression and swiftly dodged the slash towards the door. Then a piercing punch hit the opponent's throat, accompanied by a bone-cracking sound, and the thug immediately fell to the ground. He relied on the defense of the young boy's body, which was not damaged by King Kong, to forcefully attack and quickly defeat his opponent. The 4 of them, who were shocked to find something wrong, looked at the curled machetes in their hands and suddenly realized why Gus was easily knocked down. In a moment of mental turmoil, Ron seized the opportunity to knock him down by teasing his feet, inserting his eyeballs, and other means. Despicable guy. The last thug, with a painful expression, covered his eyes and took another hit in his pants, immediately gripping his legs and falling to the ground. The noble ones are all in the cemetery now, only the despicable can live long, and... Who calls me a despicable outsider? Ron chuckled at himself, then pulled out a dagger and bent down to cut through the opponent's throat. The thug opened his eyes wide, jumped like a fish on the chopping board for a moment, and then died. Ron followed suit and killed the other fainting thugs, finally casually throwing away the blood from the dagger. In his current situation, he cannot afford any accidents. Anyway, it is inevitable to be wanted by the Navy after killing Suo Wu. These guys who helped the tyrant to wreak havoc are not a shame, there is one who deserves to be killed. Goodbye, I believe with their company, you won't be alone on the road to the underworld. Ron spoke softly and then walked towards the warehouse entrance. Kong Kong Bu Bao Tong Zi Gong is a martial arts technique that also comes with some experience in using fist techniques and moves. However, Ron is not very skilled at handling it, and in case of accidents, he will make up for it afterwards to avoid accidents. As for using weapons directly, it's regrettable that he lacks experience in using weapons to fight against people. Well, he just wants to fight to the bone, which is more in line with his own understanding. To avoid accidents, Ron chose to use a more secure fist. But after opening the warehouse door, Ron still found that an accident had occurred. There should have been 2 fainting thugs lying on the ground, but now there is only 1. Pretend to be dead. Ron turned expressionlessly and entered the warehouse, knowing that his lack of combat experience had led to an oversight in his strategic planning. But remorse and self-blame are useless, and what should be done will not change. Just this time, Ron's actions became even more rapid. The runaway thug will only go find his own boss, who is the flying warrior who died in the grocery store. This is an inevitable result of his habitual thinking as a subordinate of the Black Boss. So when the bodies of Suo Wu and others were discovered, they went to the naval base to trigger a naval alert and a crisis of soldiers searching for them. At least 20 minutes later. If in 20 minutes, Ron does not receive enough chips to draw a prize that will allow him to leave here smoothly. So his new life will come to an end in the pursuit of the Navy. But Ron will not regret his actions here. Life is like a salted fish, how can one turn around without a broad understanding? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Brave Who Seems to Enter NPC's Home and Flip Through Boxes and Cabinets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Brave Who Seems to Enter NPC's Home and Flip Through Boxes and Cabinets. Poppet. The violent kick on the door opened the locked door with a loud bang, and Ron walked into the room, which was clearly decorated with high-end decorations. Just as I entered the door, what I saw was a big head photo of Suowu. That face carries a serious aura of authority, and the photo is in color. If it's black and white, that would be too fitting. The room is decorated luxuriously and neatly, with bookshelves, cabinets, tables, clocks, and more. Let's start. I hope the gains here will justify my adventure. Ron began rummaging through boxes and cabinets everywhere, as if he were a brave warrior breaking into an NPC's house. Quickly, he received over 420,000 Bailey. It's strange, that guy Suowu has been causing trouble on the island for several years, and he doesn't have many followers either. Is that all? Ron first fully recharged over 420,000 Bailey, and then carefully searched around but did not find it. He looked at the clock at this moment, and it was already 11:45 p.m. After some thought, Ron took out his wish and instructed the compass. With a click, it opened and used today's number of times. Buzz. The compass trembled gently, and the pointer pointed straight behind the bookshelf. Is it a mechanism? Ron stepped forward to look at the book and found the one with obvious wear and tear inside. Just as I picked it up, I heard the sound of gears running. In the blink of an eye, the bookshelf moved aside to reveal a black painted entrance. Ron casually took an oil lamp and went straight down. Walking down the stone steps, Ron's oil lamp emitted a dim yellow glow, illuminating the basement. A box, a few barrels of unknown wooden barrels, several flint guns and matching ammunition, as well as a bed and a naked girl tied to the bed. Ron walked silently and lifted the oil lamp to illuminate it. The girl didn't react, her wide eyes were lifeless and hollow, and the blue handprint on her neck was so prominent. She is already dead. Tisk. Ron smacked his tongue and walked expressionlessly towards the box, using a dagger to pry it open. Inside was a box full of Bailey and a small amount of jewelry. He quickly checked other places again, and the flint gun should be the standard equipment of naval soldiers, and there were no issues with the ammunition. Even Ron discovered the accompanying filling technology manual. The barrel is filled with cooking oil, so if there are no accidents, it should be used by the flying sword to burn other people's things. In the memory of Ron's predecessor, Koya, there were rumors such as the enemy's home suddenly catching fire and the entire family being burned to death. Perhaps it was only after all the evil deeds of the Flying Eagle were done that Ron suddenly jumped out and accepted him. After some thought, Ron took a flint gun, manual, and ammunition, and the dagger pierced a hole in the kerosene barrel. Fire oil instantly gushed out of the broken hole and flowed onto the ground. Ron came to the box again and picked up a stack of Bailey to put away. He also needs money to run away, and currently he has 600,000 Bailey in cash. Recharge. Ron's colorful wheel on the back of his hand was aimed at the money box, and in the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of Bailey disappeared into the colorful light. Recharged 2.713 million Bailey, current chip balance. 3.2 million, Daifengshu, salad of assorted fresh vegetables. Ron happily turned off the light curtain and went to the bed to cut the rope that bound the girl. After a moment of hesitation, he stroked the girl's wide-open eyes with his palm and whispered, "Suowu, that's the Godfather. He has died, it's painful. You can rest in peace now. Perhaps it's due to psychological effects, or maybe the body hasn't stiffened yet." Ron slapped it and the girl's eyes closed. He watched quietly for more than 10 seconds, gaining a new understanding of the sins that could be caused by the powerful in the world of One Piece. On the dead girl, there seemed to be a shadow of her predecessor, Koya. That's not him, but it's also him. Ron in the past actually couldn't understand why those heinous criminals wanted to harm others. They are all humans, raised by their mothers and fathers. Is it true that there is no burden at all when killing someone? After arriving in the world of One Piece, Ron gained the memory of Koya and personally killed someone. Suddenly he understood that it was not without burden. It's just that those people have never treated the victims as if they were of the same kind. Their lives, social interactions, and treatment are vastly different from those of ordinary people, and their superior perspective distinguishes them from each other based on their social class. Even in the past life, this is actually the case, otherwise how could there be an allusion to, why not eat minced meat? For example, a certain ex-fish. Really good, starting point, silently deleted over 100 words from me. After reciting a long string of positive energy spells for justice and freedom, Ron calmed down. Whether it's the death of a rabbit or the sorrow of a fox, it's okay for things to harm their kind. The passing is like this, but the living still need to continue their journey. He finally glanced at the dead girl and walked up the steps without hesitation. Taking the other party out will increase one's own risk, and how to arrange it is also a problem. Leaving it unattended, it will inevitably be discovered by those navies, and what will happen afterwards is self-evident. Even the navy of the 16 branches is shameful. Who? The oil lamp swept through the air and fell to the ground, instantly igniting the flames to create a sea of flames. Dust settles, bury all of this under the sea of fire. After leaving the basement, Ron quickly left the warehouse and arrived at the port dock. There are many boats docked here, but all of them are fishing boats. Going out to sea for fishing is actually okay, but if it's used for a long voyage, it would underestimate the ocean. If you don't run far enough, it's easy for the Navy to find you. Ron's current strength cannot be compared to Luffy and Ace, who used small boats to sail in the original work. Facing the sea breeze, Ron took a deep breath and prepared to start a new round of lottery. His luck seems to be not very good, but the question mark on the luck column has always been a concern for him. By comparing with other columns, it can be found that the letters outside the parentheses represent his current status, while the letters inside the parentheses represent his original status rating. So, in the lucky column plus, can it be my own way of life? He doesn't know, but he can try. After all, no matter how bad it is, it's impossible to be even worse than the I plus data. When you hit the bottom, no matter how you go, it will rise because there is no way to fall. Give it a try, turn a bicycle into a motorcycle. It's better than being captured and executed by the Navy. Dimensional roulette, intermediate roulette. 100 times the chips of 100,000 Bailey disappeared instantly. The wheel shrouded in colorful light instantly turned, and clusters of light were thrown out. The dense prompts flashed across the screen. Extracted. Straight knife, drawn delicious rice and vegetable roll, extracted. First aid kit, extracted. Gum, a grand prize trigger. SCHRO Dinger's poster/seal. What kind of thing? Ron was taken aback, and in the blink of an eye, a scroll-like cylinder appeared in his hand, heavy like an iron block. Scroll. Without waiting for him to think more, the light screen prompt of the dimensional roulette popped up and appeared in front of him. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Don't blame the uneven road for not being a good person. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Don't blame the uneven road for not being a good person. SCHRO Dinger's poster/seal, type. Item/biological, effect. Unfold and use, with a 50% chance of becoming a beauty poster, possessing a captivating effect. There is a 50% chance of becoming a magical creature. Seal 007, which can be ridden, can cross the sea, and comes with a sightseeing seat, PS, 007. Why work? Why work? Isn't 007 a protected animal? Consumption. January 1st time per day, PS. If you wanted to work harder, it's best to prepare snacks for it. It's not picky, it's just fish. Feature. Magic creation, PS poster. Seal. Stupid and unclear. You bet right, that's what I want. Tear and pull. Ron didn't hesitate to unfold the picture, with a 50% chance that he didn't feel so unlucky. Then a naked beauty with short orange hair appeared. Ron was instantly caught off guard and saw the naked beauty leaning against the wall, casting contemptuous eyes, but his face blushed again with a hint of lust. Wow, the waves are surging. Isn't this Nami? Ron struggled to shift his gaze away from the canvas, his nose slightly warm. No surprise, this should be Nami from the original work after the war, which is very good as a casting material. But it's useful. Where's the pit father? This is. Ron was furious and wanted to throw the scroll to the ground, but calmly stopped before shaking his hand. It's not that I can't bear it. Okay, it's just that I can't bear it. However, this is a secondary reason. The main reason is that today's frequency has already been used up, and tomorrow's is not. Previously, in the room of Suo Wu in the warehouse, Ron used the wish compass cleanly, hoping to use today's number of times before midnight. Wait until after midnight to use it again, achieving the goal of using it twice in a short period of time to help oneself overcome difficulties. The same goes for the painting scroll, his opportunity is after 12 o'clock. However, Ron is unsure of the outcome of the second round of betting on luck as a prize. The luck of the property panel at this moment is I+. Can the lucky draw just confirm the luck column? Plus it is indeed useful, but the recent exhibition result was a failure, and there is still one last chance left. I cannot afford to gamble on the only chance. That's a different way, Ron thought calmly. His luck has risen by one level due to the untied calamity, but I+ is the lowest level of luck rating he has ever seen. At least for now, gambling on luck is not his strong suit. So new variables are needed to solve the problem. Either substitute items or prizes that can change luck. Fortunately, Ron's recent adventure yielded abundant returns and had the chips to unlock the next stage of the grand prize. At the right moment, a new prompt for the dimensional wheel appeared. The lottery has reached 100 full draws, and the dimensional roulette has started the advanced roulette. The single chip in this stage of the roulette is 10,000 bellies. 100 draws for 10,000 pele, 1 million pele. Ron glanced at the balance. Chip balance. 3.1 million enough, the newly opened roulette should have a higher probability of shipment, and over 3 million yuan is enough for him to tinker with it for a while. It's better than taking a chance to gamble with only one remaining exhibition. He gave instructions. Dimensional roulette, advanced roulette 100 times lucky draw. The chip balance instantly disappeared by 1 million, and the colored wheel began to rotate again. Extracted. Decorated bookcase with gorgeous decoration, extracted. Colored adult comics, extracted. Normal long sword, extracted. 1 pack of Chinese cigarettes, extracted. Mao Tai X1, grand prize triggered, extracted. Lucky lighter, origin. Unknown dimension, type. Magic item, effect. Ignite a cigarette and receive a temporary boost of 3 seconds of luck +2. Consumption. January 1st time per day, feature. Lucky goddess's favor, PS, tell me loudly what you want. PS1. Bad news, it's a clumsy replica. Good news, it's a replica. So you don't have to worry about some big shot wielding a knife crossing dimensions to attack you. PS2. If you can't do it anymore, don't blame the uneven road. At this moment, Ron clenched the silver lighter in his hand and stared intently at the features section. Feature. Blessed by the goddess of luck, effect. Triggered during use, randomly increases luck by 1.3 points, and significantly increases the probability of users achieving their wishes. Very good, he made the right bet, the probability of shipping the big prize is very high, plus the blessing of the question mark in the lucky bar. I pulled out a lucky lighter, a prop that has a disruptive effect on the situation. However, it should be noted that, what is in the parentheses after the lucky column on the property panel plus the color has become much dimmer. About 70% of it looks like it. Ron guessed roughly plus the luck represented is also quantifiable, and 2 successful experiences have consumed a lot of luck. He was originally a non-chieftain, but he had the luck to have whatever the dog wanted. There will definitely be a cost. At this point, a new prompt appears. The lottery has reached a maximum of 100 times, and the dimensional roulette has opened a VIP roulette. The single chip in this stage of the roulette is 100,000 pele. Ron glanced at it but ignored it. Now it's his draw. No, roll up round. Of course, he didn't rashly unfold the painting directly because time had not yet arrived. Ron was wandering around, finding a bucket of rotten fish next to him. Later, he picked up a pack of Chinese cigarettes from the ground and stuffed them into his pocket. He also picked out items that could be useful for going out to sea, such as bandages, and stuffed them into his backpack. Dong dong dong. The bell of the small town church rang softly, indicating that time had entered midnight. Almost simultaneously, a long and piercing alarm sounded over the naval base standing in the center of the island. That is the sound of a siren representing encountering an enemy, and once it appears, it means that the naval base has activated the most urgent situation. Do woo, damn it, if we catch you causing trouble in the middle of the night, you'll be dead. A large number of naval soldiers rushed out of the base gate, cursing, and Colonel Mouse's angry shouts echoed above the gate. Bring back that guy who dares to offend me. I want to use his head to pay homage to the flying swordsman and those innocent deaths. Yes, Colonel. Hundreds of naval soldiers carried flint guns, and the main force split into 3 directions. A group of the smallest naval soldiers advanced towards the grocery store to collect the bodies of those innocent people. The largest number of naval soldiers are scattered throughout the town, responsible for searching the remote corners of the town's islands. The last group of Navy soldiers, equipped with significantly advanced equipment, rushed towards the port warehouse under the guidance of a pale-looking thug. The piercing siren woke up the island in an instant. Coming, the movements are quite fast. Ron looked expressionlessly into the distance, the dazzling incandescent lights and alarms telling of his current situation. Failure is equivalent to death. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. This grand farewell is just the beginning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. This grand farewell is just the beginning. Without hesitation, Ron took out a Chinese cigarette, opened it, and took out a cigarette, which seemed unfamiliar, and held it in his mouth. Under the cigarette butt is a silver lighter. There is still a lot of things on the ground, but he doesn't have time and space to organize them, so it's okay to leave them for the Navy. Quan Dang gave his life's worth of money to Soa Wu. Pop. At the moment when the firelight ignited the cigarette, Ron's luck on the attribute panel changed continuously. I plus H plus this is not the end, lucky goddess's favor. Trigger H plus G this is just the level of ordinary people's luck, causing Ron's breathing to stagnate as he sees the changes, and his heart to constantly beat faster due to nervousness. Luck still doesn't seem to be enough to escape death. However, at this time, the prompt light curtain of the dimensional roulette suddenly jumped out. Unknown effect triggered, parsing. The garbled code has been resolved by artificial intelligence. The last favor of Mother. Triggered. What is the lucky attribute in parentheses plus the symbol suddenly blurred and then disappeared completely. The new evaluation is almost instantly updated. Luck. D+, PS. This is his last blessing to the wanderer, and also the turning point of your destiny as a traveler. Today's goddess of luck is 36 D+. The lucky rating of G becoming D+ made Ron's breath pause. The mother in the special label reminded him of the blue star he used to live on. It also confirmed my hypothesis, the turning point and traveler factor, in my previous description of my luck, as well as the power of my heart to recover even after being penetrated. Most of it comes from mother's favor. PS is likely to have triggered this power in order to extract divine level items such as lucky lighters under bad luck. But now the power of this blessing has been exhausted. Only the panel of lucky D+ still exists. However, Ron was surprised. But he still didn't dare to delay for a moment. He grabbed a cigarette and pulled open the scroll. A burst of white smoke surged out of the painting and eventually turned into a 5-meter-sized seal. Blue-gray skin, white belly, and a partially exposed pink tongue. A pair of dark and watery eyes stared at Ron, with a humanized expression of annoyance as he said he had to go to work again. On its back, there is a transparent circular cover that resembles a seat. Here you are. Ron carefully handed over the bucket of rotten fish and immediately began drawing a pancake. Take me away from here to the destination, and I will give you a bucket of delicious big fish. OUO. Seal 007 excitedly slapped his belly and opened his big mouth to Ron. It doesn't seem to mind rotten fish, as long as there's something to eat, it's very happy. Ron immediately poured all the fish into Seal 007's mouth and climbed into the round shell while the other person was chewing. This seemed to be a sealed cabin, and as soon as he sat down, he heard a click. The hood was closed. OUO. 007 finished a bucket of rotten fish, licked his mouth with satisfaction, and then turned his head to row into the sea. With a splash, the seal fell into the seawater and swam comfortably, while Ron, sitting in a transparent cover, silently looked at the harbor. The sound of police sirens is still echoing, and dazzling incandescent lights illuminate the sky above the island. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed from all sides of the port, accompanied by angry curses. Quick! Quick! Search the surroundings, you go check the fishing boats at the port, you go search the warehouse at the dock. Naval soldiers came here with their anger. The high-power searchlight illuminates the harbor and sea from afar, tearing open the darkness and exposing everything. But it's too late. The white light of the searchlight illuminated a range of more than 50 meters on the sea surface, while the floating seals hundreds of meters away were still distancing themselves. This grand farewell is just the beginning. I will come back to find you, Colonel Mouse. Ron coldly withdrew his gaze and opened the wish-indicating compass with a snap. He doesn't understand navigation, but he has a wish compass that can point to a safe place. Today's count is point 1, and the wish indicator compass points to the east. Let's go, 007. At this point, Ron seemed to have established a mental connection with the seal, and just words made the seal sink. It burrows into the sea and moves towards the east. The seawater quickly submerged the location of the transparent cover, but Ron did not notice any signs of seawater seeping in. At the same time, breathing is also very normal, as if the device itself is producing oxygen. He instinctively glanced at the light screen, which showed data belonging to Seal 007. Sightseeing ship. Seal 007, Origin. See Luke Episodes Compilation. Magic Revised Edition, Type. Magic Creatures, Effect. Sightseeing and immersing oneself, Seal 007 can load a submersible to dive into the sea for hundreds of meters and engage in ultra-long underwater roaming. Consumption. After appearing in biological form, 007 requires a large amount of energy to be consumed. However, it can be restored by eating. Characteristics. Greedy for food and dislike of work. After Ron roughly understood the other attributes, he focused on the features column. Greedy food. After consuming a large amount of food, 007 will feel very happy, and work efficiency and time will be significantly improved. Disgusted with work. After working for a long time, 007 may develop a dislike for work and intentionally create small accidents to get off work as soon as possible. Does the animal kingdom also have social animals? Ron was speechless for a moment. At this moment, Seal 007 has completely descended. Buzz. The world suddenly became very quiet, and the clamor on the shore was swallowed up by the sea. The sunlight began to disappear above my head, dragging everything into the bottomless darkness beneath my feet. Ron clenched his fists and calmly waited for his future. And on the other side of the island, the delayed Navy soldiers did not catch any suspicious figures, and the fishing boats in the port did not disappear. So, the warships that had just sailed out of the base military port turned to patrol the island. And the Navy soldiers scattered throughout the island, searching for the traces of Koya under the will of Colonel Mouse. A large number of residents with disheveled clothes walked out of the house, strangely watching the 16-branch Navy, which used to be lazy to work, search around. That feeling was like a hornet being poked into a honeycomb, with a hint of irritability. However, when these residents learned that the black forces such as Suawu had died at Ron's grocery store, they appeared surprised and regretful on the surface, but almost laughed out loud behind the scenes. The mischievous samurai died, and of course they were happy. If it weren't for Colonel Mouse's concern, someone might have gone to the grocery store to set off firecrackers now. It's like a country's embassy closing and enthusiastic citizens setting off firecrackers in front of their doors. However, soon after, the residents of the town discovered that the naval soldiers had begun to break into their homes and took a large amount of wealth under the pretext of searching. The reason is simple. The Navy superior is going to rectify the discipline of the island. Colonel Mouse, who had lost his nephew, was in a state of rage. He couldn't imagine anyone in the stable headquarters daring to resist him. This is a bad beginning, perhaps it will make others follow suit. He can't even finish writing a notebook on the black material under his buttocks, and can even directly write a book about Colonel Mouse's demon life. If something unexpected happens, that's the real trouble. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Families, picking up a green algae head. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Families, picking up a green algae head. So, after issuing the search order, Colonel Mouse simply added another command to the messenger, allowing the island residents to once again feel the great justice of the Navy during the search. As soon as this command was issued, the captains of the search Navy tacitly exaggerated the command and transmitted it to the Navy below. As the saying goes, the upper body is so bad that it flows pus. Where can these naval soldiers under them get any better? Anyway, they are all beating these lowly people. It's okay to exaggerate a bit, just so everyone can make a profit. At this moment, in a residential area in a corner of the town, a bald man who was unwilling to go bankrupt stopped the Navy soldiers from moving his money box and precious items. It's been said that Koya's bastard is not with me, and you've all searched. Why take my money and things? The bald man angrily grabbed the captain of the Navy team and questioned them. We suspect that these things are related to the murderer Koya and need to be taken back for investigation. Let go, otherwise you will bear the consequences. The captain of the Navy, who was leading the team, impatiently tried to push the bald man away, but suddenly a gunshot rang out as they pushed and shoved. Bang! The flames burst out, and the bald man instantly fell to the ground. The naval captain, whose face was splattered with blood, turned his head in shock, but what caught his eye was Colonel Mouse holding a flint pistol. Sir! The captain of the Navy immediately saluted, without asking why he fired. The Navy, who knew how to question and had a conscience, lay in the cemetery and only engraved their names on the martyr's tombstone after being heroically sacrificed. The people standing here now are all human spirits who believe in money, and a commoner dies as soon as he dies. Colonel Mouse ignored and looked at the corpses on the ground with disgust. He rebelled against naval law enforcement, you should just kill him. Dare to resist law enforcement today and shoot the Navy tomorrow. Aren't you going to kill me at the base the day after tomorrow and take my head off? Such a guy should be executed as a warning to others. Yes. The captain of the Navy immediately responded loudly. This sound immediately made Colonel Mouse shift his gaze, and the cold gaze made the captain of the Navy sweat profusely. After a while, Colonel Mouse said, 70%, we'll deliver it today. Yes. The captain of the Navy dared not object at all, and only secretly complained after Colonel Mouse left. The opportunity to become rich instantly turned into a windfall, but even 3 layers were enough for him to share with his subordinates. After all, there are still many targets with potential risks. However, no matter how these naval soldiers searched 3 feet on the ground, they never found any trace of Koya. A living person just disappeared out of thin air. Most naval soldiers believe that the killer may have jumped into the sea recklessly and accidentally been eaten by a shark. Colonel Mouse did not obtain the killer and could only become impotent and furious. But no one could have imagined that they would soon meet Kia again. At that time, the situation reversed. East China Sea, the scorching sun broke through the sky and scattered golden sunlight onto the waters of the 18 naval branches base. There is also a huge seal bathed in light, as well as a small boat bitten by the seal attempting to strike. Green algae head. Ron, who walked out of the transparent cover, grabbed the inner wall of the cover with one hand. My gaze fell on the small boat and the green algae hairstyle exposed on the side, lost in thought. What do you say about picking up a green algae head while sailing and escaping? Family members, who understands? Roronoa Solon. The extremely famous character in the original work, Luffy's left and right hands, also vaguely holds the position of deputy captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. He is the favorite male character of a group of pirate fans, number 2, and even considered number 1 by some. Jaime, how could this guy be here? Ron almost immediately recognized Sauron's identity. Green short hair, 3 teardrop-shaped earrings, a dark green headscarf tied to the arms, and a pale face, as well as the most eye-catching 3 knives. He really likes this guy when watching anime. Loyal and reliable, understanding compassion, willing to sacrifice, having one's own persistence, also respecting others, and possessing strong strength and always working hard at all times. Who wouldn't like such a person? But the plot of this period. The other party should have set sail to become the world's number 1 swordsman, but due to getting lost and unable to return, they have been traveling in the East China Sea. Later, due to being forced to make a living, he became a pirate hunter and was eventually tricked by the Navy in a certain town before joining Luffy's pirate group. Oh. Ron suddenly remembered that it was still over a year before the real plot began. That is to say, even if he doesn't care about this guy, Sauron is unlikely to die inexplicably in this sea. However, let's save it. It looks like we've been drifting on the sea for a long time. Facing his favorite character, even a dangerous man, Ron still chooses to lend a helping hand. He finished flipping through that training manual when diving, but it was actually the complete training manual for the Navy. From the filling of flint weapons to navigation tips and emergency rescue at sea, there is everything. However, before the treatment, Ron, the clumsy doctor, still needs to go through the manual to familiarize himself with the process. So as not to turn a doctor into a dead person. Then he realized that Sauron had just fainted from hunger and was dehydrated. It is highly likely that the lost buff prevented this powerful swordsman from finding a chance to land, and he spent all his resources drifting on the sea before finally achieving this fate. In fact, Sauron did not know how to navigate in the original work. Most of the time, it's by taking other people's boats or simply drifting, where you go. It just seems that his luck is not very good this time. But if it's something that already exists in the original work, then Sauron probably won't die. So Ron stood up and glanced at the direction of the bow, judging based on Koya's memory knowledge. No accidents. It's the east. After thinking for a moment, he found a rope from the items he had taken away, one end tied to the bow of the ship and the other sandwiched inside a transparent cover. Then let Seal 007 continue to move eastward while he stayed on the small boat trying to rescue Sauron. Although he is a quack, he is better than nothing. The golden sun shone down on his cold and stern face, and the sound of seagulls made the man slowly open his eyes. Where am I? With slightly hazy eyes, the man quickly regained his sanity as he looked at the few seagulls flying past. Is it an island? It doesn't seem like it's time for me to leave yet. A glimmer of joy swept through the man's eyes, as if the previous situation of starving had not made him feel afraid or regretful. But coldly, a smiling face stretched out beside him. Are you awake? The surgery was very successful, and you are already a lovely girl. The sudden appearance startled Sauron, and without hesitation, he hit his head with a hammer. Dong! After a dull commotion, both of them lay on the ground, covering their heads. So hard. X2 covered his forehead and got up, grateful that he had put Sauron's knife far away. Otherwise, that joke just now might have become his last words in this life. End of this chapter.